Hello, it's Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren, and welcome to part 2 of the Belmont Saga, All That Resists Him. And this part of the book is by far the largest part of the book. It's well over 200 pages. It's tonally very different from the first part of the book, The Admiral's Pleasure, where we set up the plot. We introduce the main players, Paymaster Stenstrom, Lord Aram, and Tara de la Anderson of the Stellar Marines. So we get the end, Lieutenant Gwendolyn as well. So we introduce all these characters, and now we're going to take a step back and review the life up to this point of Paymaster Stenstrom, because we've created a lot of secrets. His Tyrolese sorcery, his relationship with his mother, whom he claims has sick, fearsome demons on his soul, why he's a paymaster and not in the fleet, since his dad, Stenstrom the Older, has been a warbird captain for a long time of his ship, the Caroline. And in the original book 1 of the League of Elder, we mention Stenstrom the Older, the captain of the Caroline. That's his dad. So with a dad like that, familial connections are important. If you have a well-placed relative, you can get a leg up in the fleet and in the league at large. It's just how it works. But Stenstrom the Younger is not in the fleet. He's a paymaster, and there's a very specific reason for that, which we will learn in this part of the book. We will interact with his mother, Lady Jubilee. We will meet, finally, Lady Lillian of Gamboa, his on-again, off-again girlfriend and would-be fiancé. Her locket, with her face in it, appears at the very beginning of the book. It is the picture on the end paper, or the cover page of the book. There's a locket, and it's open, and there's Lily, and she's smiling. She's got a little flower in her hair. It looks very nice. We're gonna meet Lily. We're gonna go through the various aspects of Paymaster Stenstrom's life. How do I feel about this about 10 years later after I've written it? And I knew that I wanted to create Paymaster Stenstrom to be very different from my previous leading man, Captain Davidge, who was very monogamous. And then his son, Lord Cable, was also very monogamous. I wanted Stenstrom to be different, not a carouser or womanizer, but a man who has known many women and many people throughout his life. And I wanted that to be clear. And I wanted him to have secrets, and I wanted him to have mysteries surrounding him. And then I wanted to make them plain. Oh, that's why he did X, Y, and Z. And that's what this middle part of the book is meant to accomplish. Completely stopping the plot to have a foray into the past of the main character isn't necessarily a thing you should do, especially in this modern age when plot is king. And I got told that. I go, "Hey, Red, plot is king, you know, what the hell are you doing, huh?" Well, I think it works out well, but some of the criticisms I got when the first book in the Belmont Saga, Sands of the Solar Empire, came out was the fact that the plot stops for a good long time. And then the final part of the book, called The Demon That Came for His Soul, starts again. But it takes a while to get there. Now, I'm not saying that this middle part isn't interesting and fun, but the plot I've been establishing is not present in this part of the book. So I'm just being honest. I'm being honest. Okay, you can throw as many darts at me as you want, but I think it works out well. And it's funny because in people who've read both books, they go, "Oh, well, Sands had this big long thing in the middle where we got no plot." But then you get to the second book, Against the Druries, and it's nothing but plot, and there's a lot more action and blah 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 blah. So that's just the way the cookie crumbled. That's the way I wanted to present the story. In this case, I wanted to be a little different than I had been in the past. So if I could do it all over again, would I do it this way? Yeah, probably, I guess. Maybe excise a few things, but for the most part, I would keep it intact. The name of the part, All That Resists Him, I got that from the most haunted portrait on the internet, which was big back then. It was there was a lot of YouTube videos about this scary portrait of a guy and like a doll standing next to him, and behind him is like a picture window with all these hands kind of pressed against it. And if you turn out the lights, or if you have like a red light, it looks like the doll like kind of comes to life and is holding a gun or something. It was a big thing back in the day, and the portrait, I think, was titled similarly, All That Resists Him. And I liked the title, and I thought the whole thing about the painting was interesting, so I just applied it to this part. Anyways, chapter 1 of part 2 is called A Remarkable Birth. So let's get to it. Let's find out a few things about Paymaster Stenstrom. Let's proceed, shall we? Part 2, All That Resists Him. Chapter 1, A Remarkable Birth. So where are you guys from? Tara asked. She was sitting at the missives chair eating an Instameal, her feet propped up on the panel. I'm from the west continent of Baz, a little village called Dyson Clampton. Villages on Baz always have two names. Don't ask me why, they just do. Ever heard of it? Stenstrom sat down in his chair. No, I'm afraid I don't know all that much about Baz. Sounds like a charming place. Charming? There's nothing charming about it. It's hot in the summer and way cold in the winter. Still, it's home. I've heard the bugs on Baz are massive and not to be trifled with, Aram said from behind the helm. Well, they sure are big and mean, too. Everything's mean on Baz. Look at me. I'm mean. She unbuttoned her marine vest and got comfortable. Stenstrom laughed. What's your family do? Well, since you asked, I'll tell you. My mother's a fruit vendor. Galacas, mostly, when they're in season. My dad, my uncles, distilled Zamuda. You like Zamuda? I heard it gives you quite a hangover. Well, it can if you're not used to it, and it stops you up pretty good. You never get used to that. Wish we had some right now. I like Zamuda, Aram said, in a blue coquina, a very tasty drink. Tara turned her nose up at the thought. So, Aram, what about you? Where do you come from? She asked. He turned the wheel a bit. I'm from St. Edmunds, a little fishing city south of the forest. Aram's a Calvert house. Neither one of you have probably ever been to Calvert. I've been to Calvert, and St. Edmunds myself many times, Stenstrom replied. You have? Yes. I suppose your being from Calvert is why your thoughts dwell on that fiend of Calvert so much. Tara put her fork down and turned to them. Okay, since I'm not a local, who is the Fiend of Calvert? Can you clue me? Aram spoke up. The Fiend of Calvert is a maniac who terrorized the whole of the Calvert region 25 years ago. Let me guess, he killed ladies, courtesans, that sort of thing, she asked. No, he killed sailors, merchants, drunks, pretty much any man roaming about the streets was fair game. Since he killed shadowy, downtrodden sorts, nobody really did much about it for a long time, and to this day, nobody really knows for certain how many people he did away with. After several years of this activity, the riffraff had had it, and they marched on Calvert Square demanding justice. The fiend was like a ghost. Nobody could get him, not even the gifted inspectors from the north they brought in. So what happened? A vigilant from the east called the Mad Lord of Walther came and defeated the fiend. And he hasn't been heard from since, Aram said. He killed the fiend, Stenstrom said. No, he didn't kill him, Aram said. The fiend escaped, fleeing across the rooftops of Calvert. You know, my room in our house was on the top floor, and the night the Mad Lord defeated the fiend, I was just a kid. I distinctly remember lying in my bed, hearing footsteps across the rooftop, bump, 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 running across to an adjacent house. That was the fiend fleeing from the Mad Lord in pursuit. It gives me the chills when I think how close I was to him. He ran across my rooftop with me only feet away. Are you sure it's a he, Aram? Stenstrom said. I heard the fiend was a woman. Oh, that old theory again. It's been debunked by Lord Roderick of D. Stenstrom was about to say something when Tara butted in. "What does your family do, Aram?" she asked, trying to change the subject. Bored with it, frankly. Fishing and canning, mostly. I've never liked the sea much, though. Flying's another story. My brother had an old Merc 22 suborbital. I got it going when I was young, and that's what I learned to fly on. I love to fly." "How many brothers and sisters do you have?" "I've got one brother, and we fight all the time," Tara said, seemingly enjoying the get-to-know-you session. "8, Aram said. 5 brothers and 3 sisters. I'm the youngest. My mother had a hard time with me and could have no more afterwards. My oldest brother, Ethelrude, is the pride of our family. He married a Caroline, you see." Stenstrom thought a moment. "A Caroline? You mean a lady from the house of Caroline? They're Zaffins, aren't they?" Aram beamed. "They are. There's an old story about the Carolines that my brother heard of and put it to the test. The story goes that if you venture out into the ruins of Caroline Manor, bearing gifts and wait there in the moonlight, then you may be rewarded. A Caroline lady might just pop up out of nowhere." "So your brother went out and waited amongst the ruins of an abandoned manor with gifts, and a woman just appeared?" "That's right. Her name is Lady Etzold. A very romantic tale, I think." Aram appeared rather envious. Stenstrom said. "Aram, does the word carofab mean anything to you?" "No. Why?" Stenstrom wanted to say something, but he held his tongue. Never mind. "My brother," Aram continued, "not only did he have the good fortune to marry a Caroline, he's also had the distinction of participating in the Sisters program once." "The Sisters program?" Stenstrom asked. "Only once? You've never participated, Aram?" Aram blushed a little. "Our family, the sisters normally don't pay us much mind. Calverts, they just don't seem to like us very much." He appeared curious. "Belle, have you participated with the sisters? I mean, Belmont is a Xenon house, is that right? Xenons are usually favored amongst the sisters." "Yes, Aram it is, and to answer your first part of your question, I have." Aram stood there behind the wheel, clearly wanting to know more. Tara smiled. "Belle, I think Aram's pretty keen on this sister thing. I think he wants to know how many times you've corked a sister and is afraid to come out and ask. That right, Aram?" He didn't reply. "Well," Stenstrom replied, "I've never thought about it in quite that fashion, Tara, but I've participated 27 times. 27? Aram exclaimed, spitting. 27 times? You, by yourself, have nearly quadrupled the output of the entire Aram line with the sisters since it was patented years ago. Why so many?" "I don't know. I really don't. They just come. They come often." Tara laughed. "I'll bet they do." Stenstrom knew why. He knew perfectly well. He simply didn't want to say. Being spurned by the sisters was a bad slap and a public humiliation that Aram appeared to feel quite strongly about. Programmability, as it was called, meant a lot in the League. Aram looked devastated. Tara tried to change the subject. "So, Belle, what about you? Where are you from?" "Tyrol." "Where's that?" "I don't know Cana much." "Esther region, by the sea." "What's your dad do?" "Well, he's a fleet captain. He's commanded the warbird Caroline since before I was born. And no, before you ask, his ship, the Caroline, has nothing to do with the House of Caroline, previously mentioned." "Why are you a paymaster then, Belle?" Aram asked. "Why, what with your father and all, and apparently the sisters approve of you," he said with a touch of bitterness. "Admiral Derleth at first could not for the life of him figure out why you simply didn't join the fleet. He was certain you had some sort of criminal past and was determined to uncover it." "Really?" "Yes. He says you're a sorcerer. Is that true?" "I've been trained as a Tyrol sorcerer, yes." Tara was fascinated. "What does that mean?" "Well, not much. It means I have various skills which come in handy every so often." Tara stared at him. Well, do something. Oh, please. Come on, Belle, do something, she persisted. Like what? Oh, I don't know. Anything. Stenstrom thought a moment. All right. Tara, pretend I'm a bad guy. Get the drop on me with your SK. You want me to draw on you? Sure. Well, wait a moment. Tara pulled her SK, unloaded the mag, and checked the chamber. She seemed satisfied. Okay, Belle, you ready? I'm ready. In a blur, Tara pulled her SK. Okay, you're covered. Tara looked around. Belle? Belle, where'd you go? His chair was suddenly empty. She shot up and touched the chair. Are you invisible or something? Nope, came his voice from the other side of the bridge. She whirled around. Where are you, Belle? Right behind you. She turned, and there he was, back in his chair. Wow, she said, poking him in the shoulder to see if he was real. Did you see that, Aram? I did. Very impressive. Tara poked him again. How'd you do that? Sorry, I can't tell. That's a sorcerer's first rule. You know what you could do on Baz with skills like that? Stenstrom laughed. She returned to her chair and remagged her SK. So, Belle, you sneaky guy, you. Why did you become a paymaster? It's a difficult story. Well, seems to me we got nothing but time, she said, taking her marine coat off and loosening her boots. You guys mind if I take my boots off? They're killing me. Stenstrom sat there, contemplating his life. With two thuds, Tara's boots bounced to the floor. So what about your mom, then? What about her? My mother's dead. Passed away. She was a socialite. She had no particular profession. She raised me and my 29 sisters as our father was often at sea. 29 sisters? Aram asked. No brothers? That's odd. Yes, it is. The questions kept coming, and Stenstrom, sitting in his chair, fell into nostalgia as he listened to Aram and Tara talk. A bad birth. Aram had a bad birth. Mother and father. Sisters. The sisters spurned him. The house of Caroline. Aram's brother married a Caroline from nowhere. A Carofab. A fraud. Zamuda. Sorcerer. Tyrol sorcery is forbidden. Paymaster. Your father's a great captain. Why are you a paymaster? Why? How had he come to this place? Push! For your baby's life, you must push! Lady Jubilee of Belmont, South Tyrol, sweating and near delusional, was in dire trouble. She previously had 29 children. She'd never had a problem carrying or delivering any of them. She could typically wear her expensive gowns all the way up until the end, and then, lying on a Tyrol altar, her child would literally fly out of her. The one she was presently in the middle of delivering was her 30th. It had been a rather difficult pregnancy, the 2-year period laced with bouts of angina, bleeding, pain, and periods of madness and raving. An odd case, to be sure. And the delivery itself was proving to be a challenge, the Tyrol altar beneath her staining with blood and salty fluids and sweat. 5 sisters of the highest order presided over the delivery and appeared concerned. They struggled to save the life of the baby. The sisters normally showed little emotion, but in this case they were clearly frantic. Lady Jubilee and her partially delivered child were both dying. With no Marines present, the sisters had no way to speak with the Lord and Lady Belmont. However, their thoughts seemed most plain. Push! Damn you, Tyrol woman! Push, or we shall tear you apart to get at the child. The child shall live. You are of no concern. Push! 2 years prior, when Lady Jubilee, normally such a vibrant and powerful woman, began showing signs of sickness in her 30th pregnancy, her Lord Stenstrom became quite concerned, as any husband would for his wife. He took time away from his duties as captain of the main fleet vessel Caroline to personally tend to her. Seeing her in the early stages of deterioration, he took his lady to see the Hospitallers in Tyrol for help, and they were perplexed. At first, they simply thought Jubilee's age was playing a factor. She was over 200 years old, after all. However, after testing, the Hospitallers determined Lady Jubilee was in model shape. She was fit, typically plump in a modest way as her body type, and extremely healthy, a standard elder woman. They tested her for signs of sickness or poisoning. Nothing could be found. Still, her symptoms were clear. She writhed in bouts of invasive pain. She fell into madness and began to walk a road of slow deterioration that could lead to her eventual death. All the signs were there. Stumped, the Hospitallers noted everything unusual and pertinent about the lady that they could use to aid in their analysis. Her hair was a bright shade of silver in color, pewterlock, as the shade was called in the East, a trademark of her House Tyrol heritage. Lady Jubilee had a number of vices. She liked to indulge in smoking, as was the fashion in the Ester region, and not simply the demure tiny cigarettes mounted on a stick as ladies often enjoyed. Rather, she smoked a large homemade coal that was almost large enough to be considered a cigar. She smoked them quite often. However, she had given the habit up for her pregnancy, though she was loudly eager to take it up again as soon as she delivered. She also enjoyed the occasional stiff drink, not the fruity cocktails, but good stiff men's drinks, but again had given up the practice for her pregnancy. She was medium-sized for an Ester woman and carried a bit of extra weight, but nothing so excessive that might explain her symptoms. The Hospitallers also shared with her their prenatal assessment of the child, a boy, a fairly big one. Though lacking in air, Lord Stenstrom was reserved at the news of a boy child. He had 29 daughters, and 12 of them had false indicated as a boy, so he wasn't holding his breath. Fearing for her, the Hospitallers, seeing no other course, thought the safest thing would be to terminate the pregnancy. Lady Jubilee's welfare was possibly at stake. Though Lord and Lady Belmont already had 29 children, they didn't want, if at all possible, to give up on the child and decided to go to the Sisterhood of Light for help. Such a visit was their last choice, for Lady Jubilee's House of Tyrol was historically not close to the sisters for a number of reasons. Still, this is for their unborn child. They visited the sisters' research facility at Valenhelm, and though graciously welcomed, they got the usual sisterhood treatment, a smiling disinterest. The sisters, being the sisters, had little time for such a mundane thing as a troubled pregnancy. They took the test results the Hospitallers had given them and promised to go over the findings and reply in short order. In other words, the sisters weren't going to help them. So they returned to their holdings in Tyrol, and Lady Jubilee continued to suffer, her symptoms becoming severe to the point of being bedridden. Her husband and her children sitting at her side in their grand bedroom trying to keep her spirits up. Time passed, and Lady Jubilee fell into protracted madness, eyes blank, hands trembling. Fearing for his wife, Lord Stenstrom calmed the Hospitallers. "Please, save his lady," he said to them frankly over the comm. "In the pregnancy, save her life." The Hospitallers arrived the next day from their sanctum in Tyrol, ready to perform the unhappy procedure. A contingent of sisters also arrived. Though they on the surface behaved in their usual demure fashion, the sisters nevertheless appeared a bit anxious, a bit windblown. They intercepted the Hospitallers and, after a lengthy meeting with them and Lord Stenstrom, insisted that the pregnancy continue. The Hospitallers objected. Lady Jubilee was clearly in dire straits. She had 29 children, and sadly the 30th should be terminated. The sisters insisted they be allowed to take action. They went into her room and closed the door. When they emerged, some time later, they announced the lady and her unborn child were both fine. Lord Stenstrom went to Jubilee's side. There she was, resting in bed on a mound of pillows, a little sweaty, but otherwise doing much better than she had been. "My lord, she said softly. Whatever the sisters did behind the closed door of the bedroom, it was effective. Her sanity was restored, her pain managed. The Hospitallers demanded to examine Lady Jubilee. The sisters dismissed them outright. After that, the sisters became quite interested in Lady Jubilee's pregnancy. They remained in close attendance, visiting often, monitoring Lady Jubilee's progress, and eventually took up temporary residence in a chapel on the green so that they could stay close by should their help be needed at a moment's notice. Their protracted presence was galling, not only for Lady Jubilee, but for the people and lords of Tyrol, for the sisters were considered a prying and dangerous nuisance in the region. The Tyrols as a people and the sisters had never been close. The thing Lady Jubilee had dreaded was finally at hand. Lord Stenstrom sat by Lady Jubilee's bedside. The grand bedroom was decorated in old Tyrol signets and inlaid mosaics. Through the many windows, afternoon sun filtered in, along with the steady, gritty sound of the surf from the sea. Two sisters sat nearby, each flanked with their usual marines. The sisters were asking a series of probing questions, and there appeared to be no getting out of it. Lady Jubilee did not want to answer questions from the sisters. She had many secrets. Lord Stenstrom, feeling the tension in the room, tried to break the ice and send the conversation down a suitable path. "Great sisters, may I offer a thought regarding my lady's condition?" "You may, of course, offer a thought, Lord Belmont," a marine said. "There is a long-standing weirgild placed upon my lady's head. Perhaps her condition is a result of that death mark." "We are aware of the weirgild placed upon Lady Jubilee's head. We have determined that no provable malfeasance or similar activities have been acted upon her in such a regard." Lord Stenstrom nodded. I see. The sisters turned to Lady Jubilee. "You are in your final weeks of pregnancy, Lady Jubilee," a marine said for one of the sisters. "Your distress and continued symptoms are caused by an unusually high demand made upon your body by your unborn child. We have not seen the like in some time. We have, through herbal, botanical, and chemical remedies, arrested the problem, and you shall carry your child to term without fear or further worry, provided you allow us to continue your treatment." "We are grateful, great sisters," Lord Stenstrom replied. "We have questions for both of you and desire an honest discourse. You need not fear or be modest in this. We simply need all information possible to ensure our diagnosis is sound and our prescribed treatment appropriate." This sounded reasonable enough. Lady Jubilee resisted. She did not want to answer questions from the sisters. She had secrets. Many secrets. They instantly detected this, easily reading her surface thoughts. "We care not for your Tyrol ancestry. We are aware we are not trusted or, for that matter, well liked in this area. We know ancient Tyrol lords did not love the elders. You need not fear. Our interest in this matter lies solely with your unborn child. Any secrets or breaches of elder law committed by you or your house are of no concern at this time." Stenstrom and Lady Jubilee looked at each other and clasped hands, the both of them dreading what was to come. The sisters began. "The condition of your child does not look to us to be natural. Did either of you take or otherwise indulge in anything unusual prior to the conception of this child?" the sisters asked them. "Please be honest." As per usual, the sisters were grappled into their minds, taking their answers both by ear and directly from their thoughts. Lying would be pointless and might possibly provoke more questions. Jubilee swallowed. "I took an herbal fertility mixture to promote my body's ability to bear children, as I am getting rather old. I have often done so." The sisters noted her admission. "Your body is fully healthy, and your age is of no concern. Such an herbal remedy shall, as we understand, promote the production of XXX chromosomes, and most certainly ensure that you shall bear a girl child. You must have been taking this remedy for some time, as we see you have 29 daughters and no sons, a statistical impossibility, as Lord Belmont is perfectly virile and his Y counts are normal." Clearly," she replied. "Where did you get this herbal fertility remedy?" a sister asked. Jubilee was uncomfortable. It's a family remedy. I made it myself. We see, the Marine said for a sister. And you are skilled in the herbal arts? I have some skill, yes. The sisters did not react. In a normal situation, we would be interested in learning more of this herbal remedy to test and determine if it is safe and legal for practical use. However, what is done is done. Again, as previously stated, we shall confine ourselves to observation and treatment in this matter. Jubilee was relieved. The sisters turned to Lord Stenstrom. And you, sir? Stenstrom cleared his throat. He felt the sisters' collective gaze cutting into him deep. He spoke. Before our latest pregnancy, I purchased a serum which was purported to promote the creation of a child with admirable genes. The sisters noted his comments. And you wished for a boy child? Yes. Yes, I have made no secret of that. Our house needs an heir. Jubilee turned to her husband. She looked like she wanted to say something, but held her tongue. You wish to add something, Lady Jubilee? One of the Marines asked. She faded back into the pillows and said nothing. The sisters continued. And where did you acquire this serum, Lord Belmont? Baz. It was sold to me by a reputable pharmacy and vigorously argued as safe. The sisters noted his admission in their usual fashion, displaying little emotion one way or the other. We have heard of such things and know the potion you speak of. This Baz potion, it shall certainly guarantee you the birth of a boy child. Are we correct? That is its promised effect, yes. Again, Jubilee looked like she wanted to have a private word with her husband, but she couldn't with the sisters present. And was that all you took, Lord Belmont? Yes. We have detected certain other compounds present in Lady Jubilee's body. We believe that the potion you took on Baz was tainted somehow. Tainted? The Hospitallers detected no poisons or taints? Indeed, we have knowledge the Hospitallers do not, but no matter. We have arrested its effects as best we can. The interview went on. They insisted nothing was wrong, either with herself or her unborn child, and that the herbals and serums they took, even with the odd taint, should not prove harmful. They prescribed a revised retinue of herbal treatments which appeared to calm her symptoms, and took their leave. She was in the final weeks of her pregnancy. Push! Push, woman! Push by the elders to protect this child. We shall dash you aside without hesitation. Jubilee screamed, the altar beneath her dripping with dark blood. Lord Stenstrom took her hand and whispered in her ear, Push, my lady, push! Our child is almost born. Something's wrong! Something's wrong! She's tearing me apart! Our baby is almost born. Just a little more. I can't! The sisters had enough. Their actions clearly indicated that they had little care or sympathy for Lady Jubilee. It was the child they wanted. They TK'd into her, wrenching her flesh aside without regard or mercy. Jubilee arched her back and uttered a cry of anguish that was soul-shattering, through torn flesh and shattered bone. Their child was free of her womb. Held aloft by the sisters, it took its first breath and cried. When Lady Jubilee awoke some time later, she discovered the sisters had departed. The Hospitallers were back. They had labored through the night to save her life. For, as she was later told, the sisters had nearly torn her apart and left her for dead. They had worked hard, and she was out of danger. She was a strong woman. Child, where's our child? Where is she? The Hospitallers and Lord Stenstrom leaned over her. The child is fine. Our son is fine, Jubilee, Lord Stenstrom said. Her eyes, previously heavy-lidded and bleary, snapped open with fury. Son? A son? She said, trying to sit up, her voice ragged. There will be no sons. I have told you that. I have told you that. The Hospitallers were shocked. Lady Jubilee, please try to calm yourself. Keep out of this. She pointed at Lord Stenstrom. "When you are no longer at peril, then you shall have a son, not before." "There will be no more children for you, Lady Jubilee. To save you, we had to remove your womb," a Hospitaller said. Lady Jubilee was shocked at the news. Womb gone. No more children. How could this be? Her bearing changed completely. Though she now had 30 children, the fact she could have no more filled her with such loss. "No sons for us. No sons for my lord," she moaned. The Hospitallers must surely think her mad. Lord Stenstrom went to a nearby crib and picked up a bundle of blankets. "Here, Jubilee, see our son." She scowled, regaining her fury. "I'll murder this infant before I've a chance to become devoted to him. You watch! You watch! I'll not be heartbroken. I'll not attend his funeral as I shall yours." The Hospitaller stood there, not quite knowing what to make of this display. But Lord Stenstrom, holding the perfect baby boy in his arms, knelt down and showed him to Jubilee. She looked at the bundle and gasped with joy, her fury instantly forgotten. "Look at our son, their perfect baby boy." All it took was one look. And with that, we conclude part 2, chapter 1, A Remarkable Birth. So, begin our first foray into the past of Lord Belmont, even before he was born, and that his mother had, now, just so you know I'm not nuts or stupid, elder pregnancies last a lot longer than just our pregnancies. They usually last around 2 years. So when you have a child, expect for the pregnancy to last around 2 years. Unless you're a giftless commoner like the people from Onaris, then it's more of a normal birthing. But for gifted blues and descendants of gifted blues, it takes a lot longer, 2 years. And these people, the elder kind, who stay young throughout the course of their lives and who don't get sick, their chromosomes are a little different than ours. They have 3 instead of just 2. And so triple X is going to be a girl. Triple Y is going to be a boy. If you have a mixture of X and Y, it's going to be a boy. So you have more of a tendency to have boys, but still triple X chromosomes happen a lot. So there's Lady Jubilee comes from the House of Tyrol. They're on the east coast of the southern continent in the Ester lands. And there are people known for being sorcerous and being a bit aloof from the teachings of the elders and the sisters. But the sisters aren't really welcome there like they are in the north and in the south and the east. Or in the west, sorry. In the east, the sisters don't have quite the same standing as everyone else on Cana. And Lady Jubilee's House of Tyrol is known for doing things that they shouldn't really be doing. For some reason, as has not yet been explained, Lady Jubilee was dead set on giving her Lord Stenstrom, girls. No boys, no heirs. Even though the league is run by the sisters and is essentially a fiefdom of the sisters, laws of heraldry and things like that are all male dominated. So if you have a house and you don't have a male heir, your house falls apart and becomes dead. And all your stuff then gets distributed to other houses. It's kind of a bit of a mess as far as the passing of goods and lands from one generation to the next. If you don't have a guy, you're screwed, basically. So the House of Belmont, South Tyrol, which is a brand new house, has 29 daughters, and apparently Lady Jubilee was taking some sort of potion to prevent herself having a male child. And she was even pretty angry with Lord Belmont that he went to Baz and took a potion that should ensure the birth of a boy. That's pretty annoying to her. Like, what are you doing? So both of them were taking something, and it created, a boy child, but a very troubled pregnancy, one that nearly killed Lady Jubilee, that required the sisters to come in and supervise the situation. And apparently, as the birthing came to pass, the sisters were ready to kill Lady Jubilee to get at the child. Their interest in him is remarkable, and it's not yet explained why they're so interested in him. As we found out at the beginning, Lord Aram, his family is basically known as untouchable, so the sisters aren't going to come to them for programmability. And of course, if you remember from other readings, programmability is very important in the League, and what it means is the sisters come to you to impregnate them, and it's considered an honor and a bit of prestige. And to be considered untouchable is a bad social limitation. You can't expect to really go anywhere in the League as an untouchable. Aram, before getting into the Admiral's office, was in the mailroom for a long time, and his prospects were basically nil because of his family's untouchable status. On the other hand, there's Paymaster Stenstrom, and he's programmability 27 times, and that is unheard of. And as far as the rankings go, as far as programmability, that's the Pell ranking, where that's very rare. I mean, the sisters just love you for some reason. Yes, that is the case, and we do not know why. And that goes hand in hand with why they were so interested in his birthing, and we'll find all that out later in this part of the book. Let's see why exactly the sisters were so fascinated. So there we go, chapter 1 and part 2. Next chapter, we continue learning about the past of Lord Belmont. Chapter 2, the House of Belmont, South Tyrol. And we'll learn more about his mother, his father, the situation that they were in when they met, and all that happy stuff. So until then, this is Ren Presents time. I'm your host, Ren. Peace out.